So in this video, we're going to do a 5-minute review of using the quadratic formula. So how to use the quadratic formula? You want to start off by making sure your equation is in standard form. So that means that it needs to be set equal to 0. If there's a GCF, you're going to factor it out first, and then you're going to identify the values of a, b, and c and plug them into the formula carefully. Then you can simplify and solve for x. So let's start off with this problem. Let's find the solutions to 3x squared minus 10x equals 8. Well, notice it's not already set equal to 0, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract 8 from both sides in order to get my equation equal to 0. So I have 3x squared minus 10x minus 8 equals 0. So notice that now I have my values of a, b, and c that I can plug into my quadratic formula. A is 3, b is negative 10, and c is negative 8. So the quadratic formula is down here in this bottom corner, so I'm just going to plug my values in directly to the formula. So I have x equals negative b, so I have negative 10 plus or minus the square root of negative 10 squared minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is negative 8, and that's all being divided by 2 times a, which is 3. So now we just need to work on some simplification. So negative 10 is going to be positive 10, plus or minus the square root of negative 10 squared is going to be 100, minus, and then I have 4 times 3, which is 12. 12 times negative 8 is negative 96. And that's all divided by 2 times 3, which is 6. So now I have x equals 10 plus or minus the square root. 100 minus negative 96 becomes 100 plus 96, which is 196, and that's over 6. So now, since I have that square root of 196, I want to check if it's a perfect square. And notice that it is, okay? The square root of 196 is 14, so I can rewrite this as 10 plus or minus 14 over 6. Now what I can do is I can break this into two separate problems because I have the plus or minus. So I have 10 plus 14 over 6, and then I have 10 minus 14 over 6. 10 plus 14 is 24, so I have 24 over 6, which gives me x equals 4 as one of my solutions. And then I have 10 minus 14, which equals negative 4 over 6. So that's negative 4 over 6, and if I reduce that fraction, I get x equals negative 2/3. So those are my two solutions to this quadratic equation. Now let's try this example. Let's find the solutions to 2x squared minus 6x plus 3 equals 0. It's already in standard form, so I have a is 2, b is negative 6, and c is 3. So let's go ahead now and plug these into our formula. So I have x equals negative b, so negative 6, plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 3, all over 2 times a, which is 2. So this will become x equals negative 6 is positive 6, plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared, which is 36, and then minus 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 3 is 24. And that's all over 2 times 2, which is 4. So now I'm going to work on simplifying this. So I have x equals 6 plus or minus 36 minus 24 is 12. So I have the square root of 12 over 4. So now I'm going to do something with this radical. I'm going to look at this radical and I'm going to see if I can make it better. What I mean by make it better is I want to see if there's a perfect square that I can factor out of here. So that I can see that 12 has a factor of 4. So I can write this as the square root of 4 times the square root of 3. The square root of 4 is 2 because 4 is a perfect square. So this will become 2 square root of 3. So I can make that radical better. So I'm going to write this as 6 plus or minus 2 square root of 3 over 4. So notice that now these three terms, 6, 2, and 4, have a GCF of 2, right? I can factor a 2 out of all these equations, or all these terms actually. So if I reduce this by 2, this 6 becomes a 3, the 2 gets canceled, and the 4 becomes a 2. So I can write the solution now as x equals 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 over 2. And those are my two solutions to this quadratic equation. If you want to write it as two solutions, you can write 3 plus the square root of 3 over 2, and you can write 3 minus the square root of 3 over 2. So that's how you use the quadratic formula to solve quadratic equations.